So DaVinci Resolve version 20 has just been released, and it's probably the most crazy version that's ever been released. And that's because there's over 100 different new features that have been released with it. So in this video, we're just going to quickly go through a handful of my favorite features that are just huge time savers or features that really help make our workflow so much better. So let's jump straight into it. So the first new feature we're going to be talking about is actually here in the edit page, and it's really cool and saves us a lot of time just because it's more accessible. And this is the Keyframe Editor. And so it's basically just a panel that comes up now, whereas before we would have to actually go into the clip, click on this little icon, and that would bring up an editor, and it was just really difficult to use because you would have to do it on the timeline. Now we have our own panel, so we can actually use it more intuitively and have more control over our keyframes. So all of this already existed. This is just a new interface that is a lot simpler and a lot easier to use. So right up here, we would get access to our media pool. On the far right hand side, we have keyframes. And if we click that, let me just keep my timeline open. You can see that we have all of these parameters that have been opened, and we can actually add keyframes here and do a bunch here now, instead of having to do everything here in this inspector. I do prefer to still use the inspector just because I'm so used to it, so it makes life easier. But the great thing about this is that we can actually go to our keyframe curves, which means that we can add ease in and outs really quickly and really simply. So I'm going to go back to parameters just so we can see what we're doing. I'm going to do a quick example, just doing a nice zoom in as she opens her eyes. So just like that. I'll show you what that looks like typically, right? So it's got that hard stop over there. So I'd have to click on that icon and work in the small real estate underneath my clip. But now I can just switch over to our keyframe curves, select both like that, and then say ease in and out. And now they both have an ease in and out. And now it's just a smooth, really good looking zoom in. As you can see, it just looks more professional. So it's just a lot easier to actually work up here. Obviously, I could edit the keyframes. It's just really cool to have this all up here and be able to make those decisions and make all of that with real estate to actually work in rather than on your timeline. So the next feature actually has to do with audio editing, which is something we all have to do when we're editing in DaVinci Resolve. But they just made our lives so much easier when we are trying to cut a song down so that it fits our video. So let's say our video project's only 30 seconds long and we have a beautiful piece of music that we now need to cut into 30 seconds because you don't want your audio just to finish and fade out. You actually want to cut it so that it works nicely within your project. It's just a lot more professional way to do it. So instead of having to spend so much time trying to find the perfect point to actually cut from and do a transition, DaVinci Resolve will actually do that for you now with their AI music editor. And it's really easy to use. So this is our beautiful piece of music from Audio, which, by the way, you can get a discount using my coupon code. It's all in the description. It's really great. You can get 70% off. So check that out. So this beautiful piece of music right here, we want this song to be cut into 30 seconds rather than being 1 minute 50 seconds. So what we need to do is click on it, go to AI Music Editor and say adjust. Now it's going to analyze the clip so that we can start telling it exactly what we want to do. It's going to analyze the clip, and then we're going to set our target length, and it's going to make some suggestions basically. So it's going to do the edit. We're going to see where it's cut. And then we are going to be able to choose between different versions to find the one that we like best. So it's almost finished analyzing right now. There we go. I'm going to say, let's change that to 0. Let's change this to 30. And then let's change these to 0. So just like that. Now I'm going to say adjust. And that was really quick. It's already found the best points to cut at. So this is version 1. And I'm going to just fast forward right here. That's pretty good, right? That's just the first version, but that's actually really good. These are our cut marks over here, and you can hear that there's actually a really good transition that's going on there. It feels natural. It doesn't feel abrupt. There are little bits that give it away, and unfortunately, we don't have control over that just yet, which I'd love to see in the future. But we also have different versions. We've got up to 4 versions each time, which is really incredible. So obviously, you can still adjust your clip as you want to. It's just quite an amazing feature. So the next feature we're going to talk about is actually also here in the edit page, and it also has to do with audio, but it is just such a time saver. So this is their AI audio assistant, and basically you can get access to it by going to Timeline, AI Tools, Audio Assistant. And what this is going to do is it's going to auto mix all of your audio in your project. And it's going to do that to a specific delivery standard, which I'll talk about in a little bit. So what I'm going to do is just click auto mix, and I have a little test that I've done here, and I'll tell you exactly what it's doing. So auto mix. So this is a quick test to show you how the AI auto mix works. And so as I stop talking, and then start talking again, you can probably hear that it did some auto ducking, which is actually really smooth. The great thing about this whole auto mix thing is that you can actually tell DaVinci Resolve where you're going to be putting your project. So if, for instance, like this project, I'm going to be putting it on YouTube, what it's going to do is mix the project to the specifications for YouTube. So it's going to normalize my audio, it's going to put it at the right sort of decibel level so that my vocals sound good or my voice sounds good, and then it's also going to mix the music so that it's not too loud. But let's say it's going to something like Disney, you can see that it actually has parameters set up for that, which is just really helpful if you're doing it in a pinch. Obviously always send it to a sound technician, but this is amazing that they can do something like this. So the next feature I want to talk about is here in our color page, and it is our color warper, which has had a little bit of an update. So what we used to have is this over here, which is our color warper hue saturation. Now we also have a Chroma Warp, which is really, really cool. So this is actually a better way to use our Chroma Warper or our color warper. It just gives us a cleaner image, and we are actually able to do a lot more. So let's check it out. So we've got our add stroke, which is just normal mode. Straight away, our qualifier is selected. I'm going to select on that yellow, and now it comes up on our mesh. So we have this dot on our mesh now, and then we have this little red circle, which is actually our chroma range. So you can increase or decrease that, and that is pretty much just going to, increase the amount of hues that are being affected or decrease. It's really cool. So I can increase that slightly. Actually, I'm going to decrease that, and then I can start adjusting those hues. So I'm going to bring them down to be a little bit more green, and now you can see what's being affected. Just like that. Really cool. So we can also make it more blue somewhere there, but you can see that as we go, this red circle is now including all of the hues in between. So this is really great for small changes between, hues that aren't crossing over, let's call it this midsection over here, because that's going to start encompassing a lot of the hues in your image. Rather use it, just across like that or across like that. So I'm going to do that right there. And that's looking pretty good. It's actually really, really clean. And we do have parameters that we can change here to get it to be a little bit more clean. So let's reset that, and I can show you a couple different modes. This is probably my favorite, which is add stroke. So same as this, but instead of it being normal mode, it's point-to-point mode. And this is super powerful. So let's do our point-to-point. I'm actually going to change this red. And as you can see, it's very similar in terms of interface. We have a dot, and now we have a red circle. I'm going to change that red to be blue, but now you can see that the whole image hasn't been affected. It's just that hue that we selected. Just like that, we've managed to change the red in our image to be blue. And obviously we've got some fringing going on, and we could play around with this and get it to be a little bit more precise and get rid of that fringing. But for right now, it's just an example. We also have pin, which allows you to, let's say, pin her skin tones like that. I'm going to just increase. That means that now every time I add a point like such, and I want to change the skin tone, if I were to bring my pin over our point, you can see that that part of her skin is not being affected anymore because we've pinned it. And so it stays where it's meant to be, which is really cool. So that's pretty much what we've got here in our Chroma Warp. Let me show you what would happen if I were to just use our color warper hue versus saturation. So this is what we would typically use. I'm going to select that yellow, which is right over there. So I'm going to change it something like that. Do you see how all of our skin tones are being affected as well? And it's really hard to be able to make adjustments that actually are more isolated. And so I would definitely go and use like a mask to go and mask that, but we don't actually have to do that anymore. It saves time and it's still really clean. And well, obviously you can play with the parameters and get it to be a lot more clean. It's really, really cool. The next feature which everyone is talking about is the new Magic Mask, which is really, really, really exciting. I use Magic Mask pretty much on every single project that I work on. There's so many times we have to isolate something within our image, and Magic Mask is just a great way to be able to do that. Also for rotoscoping, but there's always been a little bit of an issue with haloing or something like that, where it just, it doesn't really quite catch on to something. So especially when people are running like this. So I'm just going to play this back for you. And we've got this person running and she just keeps running, right? So her hair, her hands, things that are, coming into the image, like her hand right there, that hand, comes into the image, and it's quite hard to get that to be added to the mask initially. So I'm going to go right to the beginning. I'm going to show you how this works. So typically we would draw and we would have a stroke. Now we don't have that anymore. So I'm going to set our quality to better. I'm going to turn on this toggle mask overlay so that we can see what we've selected, and add click. It's not add stroke anymore. So now I'm going to click and you can see this little dot comes up. It's just going to process a little bit, and that's done really well just to get her face ready. I'm going to add another to get her hair, add another over here to get her body, and add another over here to get her hand. So it's just finished tracking now, and you can actually see how great this is. Look at her hair. I mean, that's unbelievable. Magic Mask has always been really good, but I think now it's just even better. So it's still not perfect. As I go forward, you can see like right here, it actually mask this a little bit. So I'm going to add a point like that, and now it got rid of that mask. And obviously you can just keep going through. Now I'd have to retract that, but you could just keep going through. But you see how like caught her arm, and if I were to turn this mask off like that, I'm going to make a big adjustment, something like this, and you can see that it's actually really, really clean. There isn't much else that's being affected other than just her, and that mask is really, really clean. Her hair looks really good. Everything's it's quite unbelievable, and it was quite quick as well. So that's a really quick and easy way to get a good clean mask. And like I said, Magic Mask was really amazing initially, but now they've just like made it a superpower and so much easier to use, which is really great. So that's it, a bunch of really, really cool features. Obviously, like I said, this is just a handful, but if you want to know more about some of these features, just stay tuned, subscribe, like the video, and there'll be more videos coming out. If you want to know more about color grading, watch some of the other videos, and again, stay tuned to see some more. Awesome guys, see you in the next one.